Welcome to Mountain Man Explores the Truth. How's everybody doing today or tonight, depending on the time you're listening to the podcast? I hope you are doing well, my friends. Tonight, we're going to be bringing on Cindy Goodbreak. I hope I pronounced her last name correct. I am terrible with last names, I'll tell you what, but most of the time I get them right. So we're going to be bringing on Cindy. She's a known experiencer and researcher, and she's been involved with, into these Bigfoots. And she's involved with Sasquatch Sister Northwest. I'm assuming that's what that is. I'm familiar with that, actually. She does research over in Idaho, and it sounds like she does some in Texas, too. So I'm really looking forward to having her come on the show, and I'll let her go into all the details, what she's got to say. And it's awesome to bring people on there that it's experiencer and researcher. She's got some interesting videos and pictures and sounds, and I'll tell you what, I'll definitely share it in the group page, and maybe I'll get her permission to put the sounds on the end of this show. Definitely Bigfoot sounds in the background, and I mean, I could hear it. It was interesting. I was like, wow, that's a familiar sound. I've heard it on other videos. So be patient. I'll be bringing on her shortly, and I think it's going to be a good show. So let's go ahead and plug in the works. So if you had an encounter or experience or a researcher or whatever you want to call yourself, investigator, so on, whatever, I'd love to have you come on my show. I don't care if it's Bigfoot, Dogman, paranormal, anything, conspiracy theories, you name it. You are welcome to come on the show, even just to talk Bigfoot. If you didn't have an experience or you had a close one or whatever, you're welcome. I love to bring people on to discuss the subjects of anything. So be sure to look for me on Facebook, look for Blake Botel, and PM me, or you can email me at mountainmanett@gmail.com. Again, mountainmanett@gmail.com. I'll say that a little slower, so mountainmanett@gmail.com. So that way you can email me and not mistakenly, because I know saying it too fast can confuse some people. Anyway, so what you could do to help the show is on YouTube, hit subscribe and that bell so you know when there's a new episode coming up, and hit the thumbs up, please. It really helps the YouTube channel out. But if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or whatever it is you want to listen to it on, please comment, follow, hit the stars, or whatever it is that helps the show get up on the chart. I really appreciate it, my friends. So bear with me shortly here. We'll be bringing Cindy on. Thank you. All right, guys, we welcome on Cindy. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Hey, how y'all doing?
All right, Cindy, would tell people a little about yourself, where they, what you're about, and I'm pretty sure some people are going to be familiar with you.
Oh yeah, I've been hanging around for around 20-something years. I've made the rounds on all the podcasts. I am Sasquatch Sisters Northwest. My name's Cindy Goodbreak. Started researching. Well, I started researching in 98, 99. I saw the Patty Gemlin film when I was a little girl. Don't ask me why, but it never left me. And I was born and raised in Texas. And then after high school, I moved to Dallas, and where I met my husband after Iraq, Desert Storm. And that was 92. So 93, 94, somewhere around there, we moved out to the country out here east of Dallas. And around 97, I had my first siren sound. Didn't know what it was, hadn't even started researching yet into this topic.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband said he had an aunt he wanted me to meet up in Tallahena, Oklahoma, which borders Honobia, Oklahoma, the famous place a lot of folks know about.
Oh yeah.
So we went out there, met his aunt, and we checked out the Honobia Creek store and just camping out there. And then after that, that night, I heard my first sound that night, siren sound. It sounded like an ambulance and a woman, I don't know, screaming. and I've heard it many, many times. I sat up and I said, "What the heck is that?" We were sitting around a campfire, and he's like, "I have no idea." And so that was my first encounter. Then started researching all over East Texas, the Big Thicket. A lot of people know about these areas: Sam Houston, Boykin Springs, a lot of areas. And then we had horses we would take up to Southeast Oklahoma, where I spent 5 years riding, researching, and having a lot of encounters in all these areas. And then I was pretty much a flesh and blood only. Then my husband, who was active duty at the time, got sent to North Idaho, where I landed for the last 21 years. And that is when my whole just ramped up, and everything I thought I knew just changed.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area over there in Idaho.
Yes. I'm north of Coeur d'Alene, and
right on.
I'm on land, and I've had a whole journey of things that have happened to me, just unbelievable things.
Well, let's hear. That's what I find interesting is that some people are like, they wonder if these things are like spiritual or flesh and blood, maybe both. We just don't know. But people like you out there get a little closer to it and end up having more experience and get better idea of what they are.
Yes.
Oh, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Cut out for a second there, but that's okay. There you are.
I'm going to move where I know I'll have better service. Okay.
Yeah, I have that problem over here too. That's why I parked this truck in the right spot. That's my studio, my truck.
Hey, I ain't mad at you for that.
Yeah.
You still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, that's really strange. Okay.
Yeah, it was like you had it was like a mute button going on for a minute there. It was quiet. I didn't hear anything.
Strange.
Yeah,
okay.
It is strange.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay. Did you ask me a question or something? Because I
was curious about what kind of experience were you having there in the Idaho area.
So when I moved from here and I went to North Idaho, I did not want to move to the property that we moved to because my husband came up here January of 2004. Like, he was going over the Wallace, Idaho pass, and it started blizzarding. He had to use the chains, and he called me, and I'm like, "Oh man." Am I still clear?
Yeah, you're clear. I can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. And so I moved up there. He looked for a place for us to live because we had to haul horses up there. So I landed at my property in June of 2004.
Okay.
And I did not want to move to this property at all. There's actually something really crazy of how we found this house. This house was not visible to some of the other real estate agents that were looking, because my husband sent me pictures in my office in Dallas of this house. And I'm like, "I told you, no woods, like no home in the woods." And he said, "This is all I can find." So we bought the house, signed the contract. And then we started having offers of 40,000 more, 60,000 more for the house. And these real estate agents said they did not see this house on the MLS. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I honestly believe that I was meant to be here because of the series of events that happened. I'm also Native American through a Mexico tribe. My great grandmother was a healer. They called her, her name was Anastasia. She went by Nachita. She was, when I was little, I remembered all the things that she would do. She would do all these things to us, and my mother would be like, call it like witchcraft. And so I remember her when I was a very little girl, and I have this connection with her. And I've had this weird thing about me my whole life, and this falls into what has happened in my life and in my journey. When we signed the contract, my husband drove down from Idaho to Texas, haul the horses. We drove 4 days straight up north. And when I pulled up onto my property, which, by the way, I'm on 5.5 acres. Everything around me is wooded, all my neighboring properties except one to the left. And the property in front of me was 20 acres. There was no one there for many, many years, up until 2017 or 18. And then in front of that is a mountain called Hoodoo Mountain.
Oh, okay.
So I'm at the bottom of this mountain called Hoodoo Mountain. And I had some experiences that at the time I thought were bad. Now I know that they were just trying to get me out of the area. I used to research in East Texas with various people. There was a group of people that we would go to the Big Thicket, which is an area in itself, different units. There's another area called Boykin Springs. I think, I forgot what national forest that was in, but I had a really crazy encounter in East Texas here. Thickly wooded forest. I was out with maybe 12 to 18 people. I don't remember, but I basically was frozen. Some people call it infrasound. They can do this on different levels. I've experienced it on different levels, but on this night, I couldn't move, and my partner in front of me couldn't move. Both of us. And it was probably for like 20 or 25 seconds. It seemed longer. And then I was released, like without a doubt. And both of us looked at each other. And hours later, we got very sick. But different things happened to different people that night. I think this night, my partner, or another research partner at the time, actually got chased out, like, to the truck by one of these beings, and something happened to another research partner of mine. So this was a night that would be talked about years that would go by on podcast. People have called me up specifically because I talked about that one night in Boykin Springs. So Boykin Springs is a very popular place now where a lot of people go. And back then, of course, nobody that we knew of in the 90s, early 2000s was out there researching. But of course, the internet was still kind of, young at that time. They didn't have like Facebook and all these groups. So from that event, I was going to be done for a while. So when I moved to North Idaho, my kids were young, 2 and 8. And I worked, so I quit my career to stay home with our children. And I just knew something was coming. I could feel it. As soon as I came off I-90 and I saw the Coeur d'Alene Lake. Oh my gosh, beautiful. Pend Oreille, all of it.
Oh yeah, very beautiful.
So when I got to our place up in North Idaho, I was shocked at the road. It was a very skinny road. I wondered if a horse trailer was going to get through there because there was a lot of branches that were hanging over. There was only 3 homes on that block, I think, at that time. And as soon as we pulled into our property, I started seeing things right away. Structures. I was like, oh man, because I was done at this point, kind of in my mind. We unloaded the horses and I walked around the whole property. My husband took me all kinds of structures. Some were brand new because I had been researching 5 years by that time. I had heard it all. I had seen it all in the big thicket.
Oh, so
I had
you
heard,
were, so you pretty much were familiar of the signs of these things and knowing where they, basically, wherever you go, you would know they were there in those areas.
yes. And
That's awesome.
I saw all these signs, structures, just different things that you'll see that they do that's associated with the phenomena of this topic. So my husband was active duty at that time in his last 8 years or 4 or 5 years that he had left in the military. And the kids, well, my older son went to school in the morning. The bus would come and get him very early. And then my younger one was still asleep until like 7:30. So he pretty much was asleep. My son, I would take him to the bus stop, which I would have to take him 2 blocks down because moose, it's dark in October there with the time change. It's dark. The moose are there on our property. So, I mean, he can't, exactly walk. So me and a neighbor would take turns taking the kids to the bus stop. So after I would come back, and my husband would leave, it's still dark outside. So I would be out there in the mornings in my woods, and I was always listening. And it was less than a week that I heard, my husband had heard before. He would call me at our East Texas property where I was still at, and he would say, I hear wolves. I hear this. I hear an elk bugling. Like, oh my gosh. So I was out there in the early morning hours, and sometimes I would go out there even earlier. I would wake up a little bit earlier, and I would go outside before anybody woke up. And that was like really early, like 5 a.m. or 5:15. And I could just see all these different things. And I was thinking, okay, great. I found all the game trails on my property, which was there was like 3 big ones on my property. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Because I really was done researching. But here I was checking out things. And then before long, I was talking to people. Word got out. I had a police call me that had a encounter there he told me the write-up that he did. He said he put Hairy Man on the report, and I don't remember if he said he had to change it, but he said he didn't change it. He wrote it up as Hairy Man. This was down the road in Athol, Idaho. So I was starting to hear things at night off the mountain. I would hear a roar. Some mornings I would hear what I call the sentinels going off, because I've heard it before out when we were camping. You would hear them go off early in the morning. Plus 2 of the guys that taught me just about everything I know about being outdoors grew up with these beings on their ranches. Their grandpas knew what they were. So I had some great teachers that paved the way for me. And this is how I spent my time. And the years went by. I would hear things out in the woods. I would see things you couldn't explain. And my kids grew up. I found tracks on my property, and my kids were having encounters. My younger son, as he grew older, he had some crazy things happen. My older son was camping out in 2007. So now we're going on the 30 year on the property, 2007 or so.
Oh, wow.
My son was camping out with some of his friends in the back property, and they heard walking around. They thought we were walking around outside with them, trying to scare them. But nobody can get to our back property because all of the neighbors are like-minded, where we all watch out for each other. So my neighbor is not going to come onto my property and be wandering around. That's a big no-no. Or any of my other side neighbors. But the property to my left was vacant. There was nobody there. So these things happened. And then things were starting to happen that were not making sense. My older son, it was my neighbor's turn. She called me. She said her car was broken or something. So she lived across the street, one over. She lived 10 acres over. So that morning, I hurried up, put my older son, we loaded up. I went to go pick up 10 acres over my neighbor, but I had a flat tire. So they had to run the rest of the way down the road and then run a whole block down, like 20 acres down the road, out the main road, because that's where the bus came. So I watched them turn the corner, and it's that blue dawn. It's like right before 7 a.m., like 6:50 a.m. And it's this cold out. I hear something from the property next to my home. I'm 10 acres. I'm 5 or 10 acres over. I hear something in the woods, but I'm looking at my tire because it's flat. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing I'm not off the main highway. This is a private road. Nobody will come down this road probably all day. So I started walking home, and then I heard my name being called from the woods, like, but it was I didn't hear the S. I heard the last of my name.
Wow.
So I turned around and I looked at the woods, because I was raised in a strict Catholic home, and you don't play with that stuff.
Yeah.
I knew it had something to do with the whole phenomena. Somehow I knew. I remember I did say something like, what do you want? So I did the first thing. I acknowledged it. And then nothing happened. And I remember there was this mist that comes up. And so I walk home and I go inside the house. My husband's getting ready to leave. It's around 7 a.m. And I say, hey, my tire's flat. He's like, oh, okay, I'll get it later after work, whatever. Which is fine. So I go in the house. My son is there. He's still, he's getting up later. My younger son, he was only 2. And my husband did fix my vehicle, but I walked over in the day through my woods to that woods. And I walked around in there. I don't know whose property that was. It was vacant. And I was walking around over there, and I came home. That was the beginning of a series of events that would happen that I'm going to call paranormal.
Interesting. That's what I was about to ask you, if that's something paranormal or something connected to Bigfoot. But yeah, that's interesting.
Well, way later on, I would find out how it's kind of that it's all connected. So other things happened. There was this deer that walked around, and different people would feed it because the mother died or something. So this is like a couple of years later. This deer showed up one day. We were having a birthday party for my younger son in January. So there's all this snow on the ground. The kids wanted to go to the neighbor's property because they have like this hill. So it was a couple of days later, or weeks, that my neighbor called me and wanted me to come over or for something. And it was going to be dark. Again, it's cold, so it's dark early by 4 o'clock, as you know. So I opened up my front door. I have a ranch house in North Idaho with a running front porch, and I can see Hoodoo Mountain right there. It's wooded to the left, wooded to the right, and all around. I do have a front, like a little front yard and a big backyard. And then the tree line starts pretty much like the builder cleared like this square, then built our house in the middle. So that'll give you a good picture of what this setting is like.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down my driveway and through the woods to my neighbor's house. But right when I opened up my door, our horse trailer was right there. It's a 2-horse trailer. It started shaking like violently. And I'm like, what the heck? So I walked over thinking maybe this deer got caught inside the horse trailer, because we would throw our garbage in there and it came around quite a bit and it would sniff it. And I was thinking, well, that's not good, because then it's, it's going to expect to be fed and this deer is going to grow up, right? And then we're going to have a problem. So I walked over to this horse trailer and I hopped on the rail to look in, and there was nothing in there. And my heart just sank. And I fell to my knees and I started praying. And I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, leave. I said something. I said, I rebuke you. I said something, I don't remember, but it just came to me like naturally. And at that point, I was really, 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 really scared. And that was it for me. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
I went to my neighbor's house. She opened the door and she said I looked like I had seen a ghost, which it was pretty much kind of like as the saying goes. So then I went home, and after that, things were happening. Things were popping up on my porch. That's not so much paranormal, more like gifts, like rocks. I was hearing roars off the mountain. I was hearing things in my backwoods, like things being broken or built, which I knew what it was. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's them, they're comfortable coming around. And we were finding tracks and things like that in the woods. The years went by. I kind of just started taking reports from people. We would go horseback riding and we would have pebbles thrown at us. I had a friend who lived on a house on the other side of town, on top of a mountain, where the house that she bought had cameras in every corner. I met her through my son's school, through a friend's. She was his classmate's parent. So when she heard that I had horses and she loved to ride, we would go riding. So one day, me and her went riding, and these pebbles were being thrown at us. And I was thinking, okay, it's just the juvies probably doing it. I didn't see anything. I didn't really smell anything. And I was in back of her a little ways. And then we came to this ditch, not a ditch, like a hill, like a steep hill. And I'm like, oh, heck. She rode my horse and I rode this other horse that we had, quarter horses. Mm-hmm. So I stayed back while she went down, because I had a horse accident. So I kind of zigzagged down, and then these pebbles were being thrown, and I was like, well, y'all quit it, God, because I was nervous. And then my friend's like, oh, it's just the juvies throwing pebbles at you. And I'm like, juvies? And she's like, oh yeah, just Sasquatch. And my jaw dropped, and I'm like, what? And then that was when she found out who I was and what I had been doing over the last 7 years. And then we went riding quite a bit. We would go up the mountain and we would come back in time to pick the kids up from school. So we became like riding buddies, not necessarily like friends where we hung out all the time. But her house, the house that she bought, her and her husband, the former owner had cameras in every corner of the house because feed he would feed them
Oh, really?
steaks out in the, oh yeah, the real estate agent told them. But I think this was dogmen more that they were talking about, because she said on some nights he would throw steaks out. Well, not just exactly steaks, but like, like more meat, but not all the time. Like, it wasn't for them. And I'm like, who's them? And she's like, well, the Sasquatch. They would, like, he threw it out like for the other things. And I'm like, what other things? She
Other
didn't
things,
know.
huh? Like, holy crap. That's the thing, too. I always thought the Dogman and Bigfoot are, like, possibly connected in some way. So I don't know what to think of the Dogman, but it freaks me out every time I hear about the Dogman and look into it. Yeah, it's an interesting one. And, I mean, Bigfoot used to freak me out, but I think I'd be more comfortable seeing a Bigfoot than I would a Dogman, to be honest.
Hands down. So I don't know the whole story for sure, but I mean, that's what I came up with. I mean, I don't know what else. And of course, she couldn't contact the former owners. She could only go by what the realtor said. So, so that was the story of her house. And she had some encounters up there. She would hear things. And so the years went by, and my oldest son didn't, he had that one encounter that I knew of, but he would camp out down the road on the Friends on the other side of the mountain. They had 60 acres. And I heard that when they were camping, that they would hear things walking around and things like that. The mother, however, her and her husband moved there from Nevada. What's that beautiful lake called?
Nevada.
Trying
to think. Anyway, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the damn name either.
Yes. Yeah, me neither. Not Reno.
It happens.
Anyway, so they moved to the area like in the 80s. So they got married like really young, and they're around our age. So there was nobody out there that lived at that time where she was living. And of course, at that time, they bought the 60 acres for a very good price. So her life was, she didn't have kids right away, but she would be outside when the kids were young or when the kids were at school, like when Mike's son was at school. And she always carried a pistol because she knew that they were around. And I don't know if she had a sighting, but her husband did when he came home from work one day, and it was getting dusk because it was winter, fall, and it gets dark like around 4. So he started his job really early. He worked with a company that had like sprinkler systems. I forgot what you call that. So he would leave early, and he came home like around dusk, and he saw something dark cross the road. And they had other encounters, but she wasn't really into this topic. It was just something that's accepted, that's part of where we live. Around 2017, I started accepting the fact that there's more to this. By this time, I had met different tribal members from the Coeur d'Alene, the Spokane tribal, especially the Spokane tribal folks. They talked with me quite a bit because I would go camping on the Spokane reservation with my best friend, whose sister was married to an elder. So we had access to the reservation right off the Columbia River. So every summer we would go there for like a couple of days. And there was a whole clan there that would come those couple of days, and we would hear things in the early morning. So I started working with different people and just other knowledgeable people of what could possibly be happening. And I will tell you that I was pretty much only flesh and blood until things were happening that I couldn't explain. And I was always out, always up in the mountains, always out at Priest Lake. That's another beautiful area. And May of 2017, something happened that I almost sold my house.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even home. Now, my husband is not into this topic. Anyone who's been following me all these years knows my husband is not into this topic. He had an encounter in Honobi, Oklahoma, when he was up there riding in 2022. I stayed home because I was pregnant. My son was born in 2023, but in 2022, my husband was up with two friends on our horses up there riding. And there was a fire break straight ahead, but the trail that they were on looped to the left. So our two friends were in front of him. And he said he looked up right when the trail went left. He looked up to see the fire break, and there was something standing on two legs. And he told me it wasn't a bear, and it was not a deer. And it was black and white, or gray and black, I think. I don't remember the color.
That's interesting. Okay.
And then it looked at him and it went into the woods. And his friend had heard him like gasp or something. So they stopped down the trail, and my husband told them what he saw. And he said, "Oh gosh, wait until I tell Cindy. I'm never going to hear the end of it." So I was glad that he had that encounter in 2002, because it just, I would hope that he would get more interested in this topic so he could maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that way he could become more of a believer and support you on what you believe on that subject too. And I have a similar thing to with my wife. She at first was like, "I don't know about that," and I go, "Honey, they're out there." And she had an incident happen for herself on this property that I'm on right now, because, backwoods of the mountains. She heard strange noises going on down the canyon and all kinds of calling. And she goes, that wasn't a coyote or anything she's ever heard of before, because she grew up out here. And she goes, I don't know what it was, but it freaked me out. And I showed her some, Bigfoot calls and all that. And she goes, oh my God, it sounds just like that. Freaked her out. And now she's a believer. So she's a believer now.
And that's, funny that some people, so it's not that he didn't believe because of our, we had some other things happen to us in Oklahoma, which I've completely skipped over. I could write a book just on that alone.
You should.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. So in 2017, so I've skipped ahead because, I could talk to you for a long time about a lot of the other things that have happened.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I'm going to scoot back maybe like 2009. I went outside to go feed my horses. In fact, I skipped over something that's really important. So 2006, my husband was active duty. He was over the battalion, the 321st Engineer Battalion. Now it's not there. It's been renamed something else. But this was in Hayden, Idaho. He was over the motor pool at that time. And I did family support for the troops, the soldiers. So that was what I did to support his career and the troops. And it helped me from going crazy, because the colonel was always saying, they're going. And I don't know why he would always tell me that. Probably because my husband would always reiterate to me that when you are active Guard Reserve, it's a little different. So in 2005 or 2006, I'm trying to think what date this was. I've been on the property like 2 years now. my husband didn't go to work that day. I think we went to the base in Arroway Heights. He was not stationed. That's the Air Force. Let's see, what's that? That's the Air Force. He is over the motor pool out of the monthly guys that got together there. They call that Active Guard Reserve. So we came home from the base, and my best friend called me because he was the first sergeant. Today he is a full battalion leader. I forgot what his title is. But she said, "Hey, how do you feel?" I'm like, fine. Like, what are you talking about? And she goes, "Oh, you haven't heard?" And I said, "Heard what?" And she said, "Oh, they're going." And then my stomach just went, that feeling, oh my gosh, they're going overseas. And she said, "Yeah, so Scott wants to talk to your husband." So my husband was coming in the kitchen, and I handed him the phone, and I said, "It's official." And I remembered to keep it together. I always told the wives, keep it together, keep it together. And I handed him the phone, and I said, "I'm going to go feed the horses." So it's dark now. I think it's summer. My friend says it was summertime. I always want to say it was fall or winter, but she says, no, it was summer. I'm like, okay. So I opened up the sliding glass door, and I went to go feed the horses, and I had watered them, and I saw like a trail of horse feed going from the barn where the horses could not get to because they don't have access to that. And I fed them, and then I went behind the barn, and I kind of just stopped, and I leaned back on the barn, and I slid down. And I remember I started crying a little bit. I don't know why I get emotional when I tell the story, because I remember what it felt like. I still was not there. I didn't get attached to this place because in my mind, I was coming back to Texas. So I heard a cooing sound coming from the back of the property. And I remember I jumped up because the only light in the backyard was from the kitchen. And it wasn't a very bright light. And I realized I was standing in the dark, like the super dark. And I ran to where the light was, and I saw my husband hang up the phone. And I heard like something leaving the back of like in the backwoods. And then I heard a roar off the mountain. And I went inside because I wanted to talk to my husband. Okay, so now what? Because in my head, I was thinking all these things. I'm not staying here. I'm going to go back to Texas. Or, if I stay here, what's going to happen? I was just, all these things were going through my head. But he turned on the news like it's just another day at the office. So I didn't want to talk about it then, because I knew I would probably become freaking out, crying, and because I had never experienced that before as a military wife. So
yeah, it's got to be tough.
My neighbor called me, who had been up on the mountain with me like the prior year. And she said, "Hey, I was feeding the animals and I heard that roar. Is that what I thought it was?" And I said, "Yes, it was." We didn't talk very long on the phone. And my husband did not go to overseas. He instead had to get another unit ready to go overseas as well. So he didn't go, which he did not like, but I was happy, but of course he wasn't. He wanted to go, but so he missed that boat. And my neighbor had gone up the mountain with me like sometime around that time. And we went at part of Hoodoo, like 3 miles up. And I always park so I can leave. Like, don't just park, because there's like not a lot of room to turn around. So I turned around so I can go back down the mountain. I wanted to do a experiment that had been done in East Texas. In East Texas, my old research partners, some of them were in a vehicle and they went to this area, and one of the girls made a distress call here in East Texas. And she had her recorder like the old fashioned way, the old recorder where you put a cassette in. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
And she had her microphone hanging out the window. So she made some kind of a distressed call, and then you could hear a whole choir come in, and you could hear like more than one, like a whole gang of them just going off.
Like a family group or a tribe, you think, or
like a whole clan coming in.
Wow.
Like, who is this making this noise? Wow. And then it's like when they got there to where this is in the big thicket somewhere. And it's like, as soon as they saw, oh, it's people, like it just stopped. And you could hear, I have the audio somewhere, but I didn't ask if I could like give it to you. And that's what I wanted to copy. So me and my neighbor went up the mountain to Hoodoo. I don't know what year it was, like, I don't know, 2005 or something, 6 or something, whatever. I don't know what year it was. And I made a distressed call. And I told her, I said, Susan, I need you to try to be quiet. We may not encounter anything. I might be up here for at least 2 hours. And she's like, okay, I can do 2 hours. So then she was very fidgety. This was not going to work. She's like, well, do you hear anything? I'm like, Susan, we've only been here 15 minutes. We get back in the car and I said, listen, I'm going to go down the mountain, go to the other side, make another call. And that's exactly what we did. Went to the power line road close to my house, where I live now in North Idaho. And I made the same call. Within a couple of minutes, you could hear them coming from where we were, like 8 miles away. You could hear them coming down the lower part of the mountain, and they were coming really fast. And boy, let me tell you what, I panicked, and I had a Suzuki Amigo at that time, and it did not have 4-wheel drive. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get stuck here in the sand and they're going to come kill us.
Yeah, I'd be like, let's get out of here.
We were able to hop in our vehicle. Like we just panicked, but you could hear them coming in. You could hear the alpha male go, just like screeching.
Wow, and that's intense.
Like, oh my God.
That's
yes.
intense.
And I remember, do not go home. I think that I was just like, thank you, Lord, because I was able to get it out of the sand. Like, what were you thinking when you parked? Like, that was really stupid, because I remember looking down and it was very sandy. And my car, my Amigo, was not four-wheel drive, which was like really dumb. So I think I took I did a loop home. I dropped her off. She lived like 10 acres over, so I dropped her off. And boy, I'll tell you what, she was going 50 miles an hour, saying, oh my gosh, I witnessed that. That sounds like your audio. What happened in East Texas? I said, yes, you noticed that too? So then I got home the next morning. I woke up, there was rocks on my front porch. Okay, I knew right away. They knew where I lived. Okay, they knew where I lived beforehand because things were happening. So I'm like, okay, they knew that was me. I mean, they had to have known. It's like, I knew that they knew.
Yeah, I feel like that's some kind of connection. Like they know that they're there, and they know where you are, and they seem to always find the ones who have that experience, and they end up following them home. And because I don't know how they do, but they end up knowing where you're at. So that's pretty interesting.
Yes, and so that was what happened at that one time, and then of course the years went by, and other things happened. But in 2017, I'm going to come back to the story. Sorry, I was bouncing back, but
that's okay. That's what the show's about. You bounce all over the place. I don't mind.
Oh my gosh! someone is probably going to put in the comments, oh my God, this lady, is going backtracking back and forth. Keep up, y'all.
That's all you can tell them is keep up,
So
I love it.
Some things happened, like other things happened during that time, but 2017 things got really crazy. My house was slapped. Now there's a house built in the 5 acres over to me, next to me, that was vacant for forever. And he was also ex-military, and his wife was a nurse. So what happened is I wasn't even home. I was at a friend's house helping them with their children. They had 2 children that they were fostering to adopt through the state. And they needed someone that they could trust to help watch their kids, because they both had behaviorals, and they knew I could handle it. And I wasn't going to let them put the house on fire.
Yeah.
So I wasn't home. I worked Mondays and Fridays, pretty much the same times. This was a Monday night. I came home around 11:10, I don't know. And it's a Monday night. So my husband had to get up for work. My husband retired in, 2007, 8 from the military after 25 years. So he's a private investigator now. That's what he did for the last couple of years ago when we fully retired. So that night I walked in the house. All that's home now is my younger son, and my husband called out my name. He said, Cindy, is that you? Yeah, of course it's me. You know it's me. And then I had a glass of wine and I went to bed. And then my neighbor texted me, but I didn't read it. The next morning I woke up and, doing our thing. My husband's getting ready to go to work, and I'm in the kitchen. My younger son had left for school already, and my husband looked at me and said, something slapped the house last night. And I looked at him and I said, what? He said, something hit the house. I don't know, around 10:30, right before you came home. And I got the rifle and I went to go look. He had to go down the hallway to the left of the kitchen, opened up the sliding glass door. We had better lighting now. Plus we had a barn too. And there was nothing there. And the dogs were fine. So he's not too concerned. My husband's 6'5". He's not, he has no problem defending our property. So he just went back to sleep, or he just laid back down until I came home. That was why he said, Cindy, is that you? Well, I mean, of course, he heard me pull up, but I'm like, really, something slapped the house, whereabouts? And I ran outside and I looked at on the ground, but there's pine needles everywhere. So I ran to the front yard and I looked at the bedroom that is next to mine, where my son sleeps. And I was looking on the side of the house where I sleep. And I saw the trail that goes from the woods, makes a loop under my window, and it goes back into the woods. So basically, they will come from the woods. They will hit the trail underneath my bedroom window. I don't know why they do that, but I found a lot of tracks out there. There's a trail, and I've shown people this trail, and it just freaks everybody out, which I think is funny because it never really scared me, but they never hit the house. But we found tracks. So there's no tracks around. I go back to the front of the house, and there on the house is these oily handprints, but not the whole hand, just like the prints and the tips of the fingers.
That's interesting.
I am like, seriously? So I go in the house and I'm stunned. And I tell my husband, there's handprints. And he's like, oh, the kids probably did it. And I go, oh, crap. Ken texted me from next door. And then I read the text. Hey, Cindy, heads up. Something is outside. My motion lights keep going off. So this is after midnight when he's texted me.
Oh, wow.
I was going to sleep. And he said his cats, there's one feral cat that stayed outside, and there was two inside of his house. They were hissing. The bird, he had a cockatiel. It was going back and forth on its perch. And he said, hey, there's something outside. And I saw it. It's a bear, I think. I'm not sure, but heads up, because he knew we had animals too. And in his text, he said that his wife had gone to bed because she's a nurse and she has to get up early. And the feral cat that was outside was plastered against his sliding glass door. And he was like, what is up, buddy? And he opened up the door, and the cat ran to a back bedroom.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, what is going on? So he was in his bedroom, and the cats were just acting weird. So he was looking outside his bedroom, which his property is more densely wooded than mine. And he doesn't even have a front yard. He has just a driveway, which is a horseshoe driveway. Like when you come in, you can get out. That's how densely it is. The trees come up right to his back porch. In fact, today he's cleared a lot of it off, but it still is very wooded. He said that he was looking out his window and he saw something standing on two legs. And the way he described the legs of the hindquarters, it had a snout, and
Wow.
it was staring straight up at the moon. Like it was, no, he said it was sniffing the air or something. And so now I'm like, oh my gosh. So I read the message to my husband. He turns and goes to work. I'm like, where are you going? He said, I'm going to work. I'm like, you're kidding me. You can't leave me here. And he's like, Cindy, quit it. Okay. Like all these years you've been doing this. Like me not going to work is not going to happen. Like if they kidnap you, just tell them to leave a note. And he said something like that. I'm like, seriously? He's like, yes, you're being ridiculous. And I remember I got mad and he left for work. And I got my dog and I walked outside, one of my dogs, and I went outside and I looked at those handprints. And I remember I went back in the house and I called my friend who's a realtor who kind of knew like what I did. And he said, I said, how much can I get for my house? Just tell me. And he's like, well, it's not exactly a buyer's market. I said, I don't care. Just tell me how much I can get for the. And then I told him what happened. And he called me back and told me, I don't know what it was. It wasn't great. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, what are we going to do? Like, my husband's going to kill me. So I talked with one of my friends from the South in Alabama that I researched with in the very, very beginning. And he just said, sis, you'll be okay, blah, 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 whatever. So my husband walks in when I'm having this conversation, and I said, yeah, I called a realtor. I ended up hanging up the phone with my friend, and my husband's like, you want to sell this house? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I called and inquired about it. And he's like, because of what happened. I'm like, yeah, like, because at that time, I thought I was the problem. I thought I invited them in. I thought I had done all these things wrong. And he said, well, like, where are we going to go, Cindy? Like, there's nowhere to go. I said, well, let's just find some land that has no woods. Like, I don't care if it's all open. I don't care if it's next to a national forest. I just don't want to be on. He said, no, financially, we just can't do that. Like, that's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. He got very mad. And I remember I was like, oh, thanks for being sensitive, buddy. And he said, get it together or you're going to be done researching, whatever. And he meant it.
Mm-hmm.
My husband doesn't care about my crazy life, and he's had a lot of things happen. He's heard things. People have been on the property. A lot of famous research people like Igor Burstov. I don't know if you know who he is.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
He's been to my property a couple of years ago. So I said, okay. So the next couple of weeks, days, months, I remember thinking, okay, like I would hear something and I would be like, la, 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 la. I'm not listening to you. So the more I didn't listen, the more it ramped up. And my younger son had started having some things happen to him. That kid is magical. There's something about him. He's probably another healer, intuitive person. I get that from my great grandmother.
I believe it.
He was camping with two other friends when he was like 12 or 13. I don't know what year that was, but not too far from my house. And they took the four-wheelers. And I thought, man, he's too young to be camping. My husband said, no, he's not. We're right here. We know where he's at. So they went camping somewhere down the road. And they heard moving around in the water. Then something big was thrown in the water. They turned on their the ATV headlights, and they were terrified. Somebody knew how to call Fish and Game, or I don't know, the sheriff, and the sheriff was like, well, we're your parents. And because they said, we're hearing noises out here at the lake. And it's, it's funny now, but it wasn't then.
Oh yeah.
They kept the lights on until they died. And then dawn came, and I think my son came home, or he called us or something, and we had to go, charge up the four-wheelers. So that was one encounter that he had. So after that happened to my house, that was May. That was the Monday before Memorial Day, because we have dirt bikes and four-wheelers, and we had a toy hauler. And my husband said, you know what, let's go to Priest Lake. So that was the Monday before. That's how I remember. So, a couple of days passed. Friday, we leave. That happened Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, we leave. I did go talk to my neighbor, and he doesn't know anything what I do. And I said, well, can you tell me how high? And he's like, maybe like 7 or 8 feet. And I said, so wow. What do you think it was? And he said, well, it was a bear. I said, yeah, but you slept with your gun all night. I said, yeah. If you're safe inside your house, why would you sleep with your gun? And he's like, what are you getting at? And I brought up possible like Sasquatch. He just shut me down. He's like, what? Are you crazy? No, it was a bear. It was probably a female bear. And I'm like, okay, it's just a hypothesis, just a theory. And I left it at that. And so Friday we left to go to Priest Lake, like in the back country. And I thought we were going to get stuck where we had parked. And I had no service. So then there was a windstorm that Monday. And then when we were coming home, as soon as I got in service, my phone started pinging because I had messages. And my neighbor texted me. He said, hey, it's back. I took a photo of it. He said it was 4:50 a.m. His wife leaves at 5:10 to be at work by 6 a.m. She's a nurse. And he said he was looking in his backwoods, which is parallel to my backwoods, to my kitchen, because our kitchens looked in the same direction. And it's getting light out, because it starts getting light out, as you know, around like 4:50. So whatever daybreak, it was daylight at that time. He grabbed his phone and took a photo of it. And he just said he saw it walking in the very back. And he said, that's odd that a bear would be walking on its hind legs again. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like what the heck? So an hour later, we got home. I checked for wind damage. Then I went to my neighbor's backwoods. He didn't even know I was back there because it was so thick. And I was looking around because there's a game trail that goes between ours, and it's big and wide. And then it T-bones at the end. And I was just looking around. And then I went to the front of the house and I saw the hound prints. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. So I started researching equipment. Like, what can I buy?
Mm-hmm.
My husband goes, here, use this, because he's a private investigator. And he had one of those Walmart recorders. I was like, oh, cool. So he went and bought me one for my birthday in July. Like, that was my birthday present. I was so excited. I put it out on my front porch and I started audio recording. So 2017, 2018, 19, 20, I've got some crazy audios. And
Is that one of the audios that you shared with me on the messenger?
yes.
Oh, right on. Yeah, when I listened to that, I knew instantly that that's a Bigfoot. Nothing else compares to that kind of sound. Not a wolf or coyotes or anything like that. So,
well, keep in mind, I've been hearing things all these years. And going back to the night that my husband got supposedly, notified, and I heard the cooing in the backwoods. Later in the following years, I would name her Keela, a female that has come around. I've had a lot of things happen. My younger son has had other things happen. He's always been on dirt bikes, going up the mountain. Our cell phones didn't work in some of these crazy areas. And of course, he always came home late or disobeyed us or whatever. So my son was camping alone one night. He asked if he could camp alone. And I said, well, heck no. But a friend was supposed to meet him. There is a part of the mountain where he always camped out. We knew exactly where he was in case something went wrong. We knew where to go. And my husband said, no, you cannot camp out on this state land. My son wanted to camp out on this other property, and we said, no, absolutely not. I got no sleep that night because me and my husband got in an argument. He said, Cindy, okay, keep in mind my husband's military. Mm-hmm. So I'll keep it clean for your show. I told my husband, I cannot believe that you let him, and I was borderline crying, like gonna pull my hair out. I said, I can't believe you let him camp out when you heard that his friend couldn't stay. And he said, Cindy, you gotta let him off the boob, okay? He's whatever his age was, 14, 15. I am like, that's very funny. After everything you've seen, witnessed, people have, here witnessed. And that next morning, my son came through the door, sure as crap. His eyes were big. I knew he had another encounter, but it was not what I expected. Get this. I looked at him and I said, what happened? He said, well, I was camping out on this state land. I'm like, really? You went over there? You disobeyed us? And he said, yeah, but I was camping and I heard something walking up and it shrieked at me. I'm like, it shrieked at you? Like, what do you mean? He said, it shrieked at me. And then it kind of went around my tent and then it hung around and it left. He never gives me all the details, like the full. And I said, well, like, what did it sound like? Because I've never had anyone say a shriek. Keep in mind, I'm thinking Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Mm-hmm. A part of me was kind of worried he was going to say like something related to a dog mound because now at this point I was getting reports and I do have another audio that is canine. I would have to find it and send it to you.
Yeah, I've always been curious what kind of sounds a dog man would make. Is it similar to a wolf or something different? I just really haven't heard too much. What kind of sounds they would make.
Yes, and there is a canine trait to it. I would just have to find and share with you what I don't know. It just sounds different.
Yeah.
From the other audios that I've gotten, but he said that it sounded like a pterodactyl. I said, whoa. What? He said, it sounded like a pterodactyl. So we pulled up like the Jurassic sounds or the other pterodactyl sounds on YouTube. He said it sounded just like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like,
that's creepy.
Like, what is this? Yeah. So then that was one encounter. He had some other crazy encounters, like they were riding their dirt bikes and they stopped up on the mountain, him and his friends, and many, more than once they would stop. I would hear that the trees would start shaking off in the distance. So, okay, let's go. Crazy things like that. My younger son, has had various other things happen to him. So I started studying at this time with deep intent because I wanted to know what was happening, because my family was dysfunctional. Like, me and my husband were not on the same page about like parenting and, this and that. And then my son was like acting up, and I thought for sure the devil has come to town, and my family has got an attachment. Something's going on here. So I sought out everything, with the paranormal things that were happening. And the next town over is called Spirit Lake, Idaho. Okay. So Spirit Lake, Idaho is notorious for their own legends. So if you take everything that has happened, like other things I haven't even told you, like I've seen apparitions, I've heard war chanting in my woods that I have got on audio, then they'll disappear, like ancient stuff.
I the way I'm hearing things coming from you right now, I can tell you had a lot going on. You definitely got some kind of spiritual connection to things, and it's going to be definitely where I would be asking you to come back to the show if you're willing. And I'd love to do a part 2 and 3 with you, definitely.
Yes, because I haven't even touched on some of the other crazy things, but that was the turning point, basically, where I started changing my paradigm of how I saw things, and the rest of the story is even crazier. So hopefully I didn't drag on too long.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. We still got some time. I mean, we're at an hour and 11 minutes. And I still got time. So if you want to tell some more, that's fine. And if you want, I'll bring you back to share more.
Yeah, well, I can probably get through the rest. And then if I did another show with you, we could go more into some of the crazier stories.
Oh yeah.
So that was my 2017 was my year of change. I started recording 2018. So 2017, we put a shop on our property. So by now, I knew other people that were living in the area that were experiencing the same things. And we would exchange stories back and forth. And this person is Native American. And she is a friend of mine. She lived in the area on the other side of the mountain, and she had family members that lived with her. And she has a whole other story and crazy journey that I can tell you about off the show. I don't like to name drop anymore, because you just never know.
Yeah, I hear you.
Who doesn't want their name associated anymore, because everybody knows me as Flesh and Blood, and I was name dropping, and then I heard through the grapevine, don't bring my name in on your crazy ass story.
It happens.
I'm like, okay,
happens.
Okay, that tells me a lot that you don't want to be associated with me. That's fine. So I don't, sometimes I'll name drop, but I just gotten I've had some things happen, so I'm a little self-conscious now about, defending my story. And I try to just keep myself neutral away from other people, and it just depends if I'm feeling defensive, or if when I'm telling a story, or if something has happened to me,
exactly,
and I'm not really feeling so I've just kind of learned the hard way not to name drop anymore. So, but this other person here that I worked with, she's amazing, and they've got their whole thing, crazy life in the area as well, and I learned a lot from her. We've been out in the field. She's taught me a lot of neat tricks of being out in the woods, and different ways of researching, looking at things I never thought of.
Well, I
tracking
give
in.
you I give you a lot of props because you come out and you're not afraid to tell people what you've seen and experience out there. Because a lot of people are, afraid of facing ridicules. People, saying stupid stuff, and that's the whole thing with my show is I want people to feel comfortable to tell their truth and not worry about those a-holes out there. Just be you and, tell your experience, and who gives a damn about the ones who don't believe.
No, thank you. So the following years, a lot more things happened. My younger son had other encounters, and they were not all Sasquatch related. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We had a fire one year, and it was coming over the ridge really fast, and they like a block over. The sheriff came earlier in the day, and it was windy. We had lost power. It was crazy. So we started packing up our toy hauler. We had this brand new tractor. I was like, oh my gosh. And my husband's like, save the Harley. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm more worried about the tractor. So we just moved the tractor out in the open, and we were getting ready to leave, and they had got the fire under control. So we slept in our RV because we had no power or nothing. So I was lucky that I did have that in my RV at least. So that was on a
Oh,
Monday.
I know about RVs. I've been living in a camper for a little over 3 years because I've been saving up
Oh,
and
hey,
and
it's
uh
awesome.
yeah, I don't
It's
mind it. It
awesome.
works, and my father-in-law's letting us, pay cheap over here on his property, and that's why I can't wait to get my own place, to be honest. I'm about ready, so uh
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. That's really awesome. So around so that was Labor Day, which was Monday, and then Tuesday we got power back.
Mhm.
And my son, who's older now, he's working, he's done with school. We said, just go to work, So he came home that night, and we got power back that evening, like around 8. And then it was getting dark like around 9 because it's starting to get dark now, as fall sets in. So he came home that night, that Tuesday night, and he had ordered tree climbing equipment because he had a fascination with arborist climbing trees, and he was thinking, I'm going to try to learn that. So his equipment had come in, and he had walked through the door. We had just gone to the house. The power had come back on, and he said, I'm going to try this equipment out. So he put on the equipment. Then he went out to the backwoods, and I was watching him. He was only supposed to go like 8 feet high, but I see him scramble up the tree. I'm like, what the heck? Like 20 feet high. I open my sliding glass door, and it's super dark out back. And I'm calling out to him, and I see him struggle trying to come down the tree. And he comes down, and I see his headlamp, and he's walking in from 4 acres back. And I said, what happened? He said, I heard walking, like a couple of people walking in the woods, which we knew what that was. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he walks in the house like, oh, it's just another day. That's how crazy my life is. So I work with people that can remote view. Like,
Oh,
we haven't
wow.
even got into that. So
Let's save that one for another episode, huh? The remote
yes,
viewing. Wow.
yes. And so I'll just finish the story, and then we can leave it at that, because I think I could do the rest of my journey in part 2, because I mean there's no way I was
Yeah,
going
I
to
could
try
tell
to
you had
climb
a
it
lot
in.
when I was watching your videos and stuff. I mean, she's had a lot going on, it sounds like. So I was like, I knew you'd be
Yes.
a great guest on the show and somebody I can have come back more than once. Like Al, I'll be bringing him back a couple more times. He had a lot of crazy stuff too going on. So I
Wow.
love
Yeah.
bringing people back like that. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that there was 2 Sasquatches coming through because of the fire. So, but yeah, we can leave it at that, and then I will get into the really crazy stuff after that, and to where I am now, and why I'm living in East Texas for the winter, and the things that have happened, like just the other night here on my property in East Texas. And I will be more than happy to come back onto your show.
Awesome. Yeah, because I definitely like to ask you some questions too. Like, you cast any footprints on the property up there in Idaho, or?
So the pine needles are so bad. We found a couple of prints, but nothing. There was one that was maybe castable, but that was in 2005.
Gotcha.
And I was still, like, I have to live there. I don't, I was learning. One thing I will say before I leave, I don't research like what I used to. Okay. I don't take anything. I try to ask. It's all about respect, because
Gotcha.
I'm not a researcher anymore. I'm a experiencer and like you said, investigator. I like that term better.
Yeah, that's what kind of what I call myself now when I'm going out in the woods. I go, I'm investigating. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't even gotten to the female or any of the other things that have happened, or what happened in 2022 at Phenomicon, or
wow.
23 or 24. What's happening here in East Texas in my backwoods? Yeah, we can get into that part too. So I hope I wasn't too crazy to follow.
No, I love listening to, when I bring guests on, I just let them take the show and talk, and I'll ask a few questions here and there, and then I'll ask a few at the end. And you brought up some structures too. Was that structures that you were finding in Idaho or Texas? Probably both, huh?
Telling both. But like in Idaho, it's all about my property up there, the mountain called Hoodoo, and everything that's happened, and who I am, and the structures, what they mean. I have portals on my property. I have my property.
Portals. Did you bring up portals? Yeah, we'll be bringing.
I have not. I will when I come back.
Yeah, I'm gonna say if you're talking about portals, I'll definitely have you back on that too, because Al was talking about a void, and he's starting to think maybe it was a portal as well, because he was, like, I don't know what it was. It felt like he went into something different. It was a strange feeling, he said. So that's interesting.
It's an energy that is different, and I'm still learning. But when I come back, I will try to get into some of the people that have been on my property, because I am writing a book. I'm actually done with it, and I did sign a book deal. So I was actually done with it last March, but I had to interview everyone. My book is my journey, basically, and how I went from flesh and blood to metaphysical, because I haven't got into that yet. I will in part two, how I got to the metaphysical part, because you're not going to believe some of the things I'm going to tell you.
That's what I love. I'd be able to get people on the tip of their toes, like, oh man, I gotta hear more. On the end of their seat. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I have witnesses and everything. People can find me on Facebook, Cindy, Cindy, and Bueno Goodbrake, Goodbrake. Sorry, but Facebook wouldn't let me change it. I hate Facebook.
Yeah, I do too. But it's great for social media and keeping connected with friends and family, and especially our world.
Yes, I know. And I do have a page, Sasquatch. Well, it's Cindy and Sasquatch Sisters Northwest.
Okay.
Facebook won't let me change it, and there's a whole other crazy story behind that.
Okay.
So it is what it is. People can find me on, and I have a ton of videos, my audios. I don't know if you have the audio, if you can play it. I don't know if you can do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna, if you don't, with your permission, I'll play that audio on here on the end of the episode so people can hear it. That's pretty interesting. So.
Yes.
Cool.
And guess what? They're going off right now. Can you hear them?
Yeah, I hear them.
They're freaking. Just a minute. I'm here in East Texas.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. The neighbors' dogs are going crazy and way back there. I'm not saying it's Sasquatch. I'm just saying they're all going crazy.
You never know. I feel like sometimes when you're talking about them, they show up.
Yeah. So for people who are saying, well, why are you in East Texas? My family lives in my house up north, and we started snowbirding, which is a term for we leave the freaking cold and we come down here to our property in East Texas. So I
don't blame you. If I could, I would move probably down in Texas or Arizona. I like the fact that, nicer days. I'm getting tired of the rain, to be honest, but I love how it makes the woods green.
No, only in wintertime, because summer I don't want to be here in summertime. So
oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's hotter than hell there during the summer. So
yeah, but I was raised here, so I do have property here in East Texas. The family, well, it's not mine. It's like the family, couple acres, couple homes on it. No big deal. So I'm very fortunate that I can do this and I can study, because since I have been here a year ago, I asked them, "Are you here?" And I got a clan that came to my backwoods. Well, it's the back of field, and then there's woods, and then there's like the lake right there, and there's a green belt, and these are my old stomping grounds. Mm-hmm. They came, and I've got photos of them popping out from my shed looking, and I'll send it to you. It's insane.
Yeah, so you're more than welcome to share it in the group page too. I'm pretty sure you're in there.
Okay, well, you'll have to send me, and then I'll go and post in there, because I don't remember everybody's group. So send it to me on Messenger, and I will share a whole bunch of stuff on your page.
Right on. That's cool. And like I said, I'm definitely going to have you come back, because I can tell you got a lot more going on. So especially hear more about your book. So.
Well, the birds are going off right now. Here it is 8:30. It's dark, very dark, and the typical bird just went off just right now. They know I'm talking. They're out there in the woods. Hey, the birds never go off this time of night.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
No, and there's a ton of areas here. I've got a lot going on. I just returned from the camp out with Keith Crabtree.
Well, that sounds familiar, that name.
Gosh, all my dogs. Okay, I better go, because
okay.
I have one dog outside, and as you hear, I gotta go. So something is back there, and there's hogs here. Shut up. Okay,
yeah, could be that. Sorry. No worries. Thanks for coming on the show, Cindy, and I'll definitely bring you back.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that show. Sorry for that long pause. It will be edited out. I'd like to thank Cindy again for coming on the show. She had a lot to say, and I found it pretty interesting. And I'm going to find the sounds for you to hear real quick. So give me a minute here, and I'll play them. And I'll tell you what, it's just like Al. There's a lot of questions, not a lot, but a decent amount of questions that were being answered already through her experience. And I'll tell you what, people like that, they're telling the truth, because they had a lot going on, and I don't know, you can feel it. You can feel they're telling the truth, and I'm definitely going to bring Cindy back to hear more, because she definitely has a lot more to tell, especially her book. Okay, guys, wait a minute here. I'll play the sounds that she showed me. All right, guys, so that's what I got from her, and I'll tell you what, you could definitely hear something there. I'm gonna say that's a Bigfoot, because that's what that loud roar, that's what they make, and I'll let you be the judge of it, but that's definitely what it sounded like to me. So once again, I'd like to thank Cindy for coming on my show, and like she said, you can find her on Facebook, Cindy Goodbreak. And you'll find her in my group page, so you can check there as well. So we'll be bringing her back. It was awesome to have her on the show. I really enjoyed listening to her experience, and that's what my show's going to be, guys. I'm going to let the person come on and tell them tell you their truth and their experience, and leave it at that. So I hope you enjoyed the show. So If you had an encounter or know somebody that had some experience or anything strange, weird in this world, paranormal, Bigfoot, Dogman, UFO, conspiracy theory, you name it, please send them my way, or if it's you, you're welcome to come on the show. Email me at mountainmanett@gmail.com. Again, mountainmanett@gmail.com. Or you can Facebook me on, you can find me on there and look for Blake Botel. You'll find me on there, guys. If you have to, just write Mountain Man Explore the Truth, and you'll find my group page, and you'll find me. And if you know anybody, just send them my way. I'd love to bring them on the show. So until next time, let's explore the truth together. Thank you, guys.